Gunshots cracked through the silence of the night like thunder tearing the sky apart. Hauwa's eyes flew open. She wasn't sure if it was a dream, but the second crack, louder and closer, made her bolt upright. Her heart thudded violently in her chest as she pulled her wrapper tighter, eyes darting across the dormitory. Around her, the others were waking up too, confused, frightened. Some were already sitting up, whispering prayers. Others, still groggy, were rubbing their eyes. Another gunshot, then shouting. Male voices. Harsh, loud. Commands barked in Hausa. The sound of boots slamming against the concrete floor. Then the unmistakable clatter of a metal door kicked open. Hauwa's breath caught in her throat. They were here. Boko Haram. She had heard the rumors. Schools burned, girls taken, lives destroyed. But it had always felt like a distant nightmare. Something that happened to other people, other towns. Not here, not Chibok, not their boarding school. A girl screamed. The door to their dorm flung open with a bang. 5 men stormed in, faces covered, AK-47s gripped tightly in their hands, eyes scanning the room like wolves searching for prey. Their boots thudded heavily as they fanned out. "Everybody stand up! Get up now!" one of them shouted in Hausa. Nobody moved. Another man fired a shot into the ceiling. Screams erupted. Girls dropped to the floor, crying. Others clutched one another, frozen in terror. Hauwa stood slowly, trembling. Her legs felt like jelly. She reached for her friend Bintu, who was sobbing quietly beside her. They held hands tightly as the men moved closer, grabbing girls and pushing them toward the hallway. "We will not hurt you if you cooperate," one of them lied. But Hauwa saw the truth in their eyes, cold, empty, dangerous. These men were not here to negotiate. They were here to take. She whispered, "Ya Allah, protect us," under her breath. They herded all the girls out of the dormitory and into the courtyard. Hauwa counted quickly, more than 100 of them. Fear hung in the air like thick smoke. Some girls were barefoot, others still in their nightgowns. The moonlight revealed pale faces streaked with tears. A pickup truck rumbled into the compound. Then another, and another. Armed men stood in the back of each one, guns raised, eyes scanning the darkness. One of the militants, taller than the rest and carrying a whip, shouted, "You will enter the trucks. Do not try to run. Do not try to scream. Allah is watching." This is not Islam, Hauwa thought. This is evil wearing God's name. The girls hesitated. That's when the man used his whip. A sharp crack on the back of a girl in front made her scream and stumble forward. That was all it took. Panic. Girls began sobbing loudly. Some tried to run, but the men caught them easily. They were too afraid, too unprepared, too young. One by one, they were forced into the backs of the trucks. Hauwa and Bintu climbed into the last one. The metal was cold beneath their feet. The truck reeked of oil, sweat, and dust. As it pulled away from the school, Hauwa turned her head. The only place she had ever known safety, her school, was disappearing behind her, and so was her freedom. The journey was long. The roads were rough. The men shouted constantly, warning them not to cry, not to whisper, not to pray. But Hauwa couldn't stop praying. She didn't care if they heard her. Beside her, Bintu kept her eyes closed. She wasn't asleep, just refusing to open them. As if by doing that, she could make it all disappear. Hours passed. The trucks drove deeper into the forest. Hauwa didn't know the direction anymore. North? South? She had no idea. Just bush and more bush. And then they stopped. A clearing. Surrounded by trees and shadows, torches lit the area, revealing more men, more guns, and tents. Many tents. This is a camp, Hauwa thought, a place built for prisoners. They were ordered out of the trucks. Some girls were so stiff and weak they had to be dragged. Hauwa's feet hit the red earth, and her knees nearly gave out. But she held on to Bintu and kept moving. Inside one of the larger tents, the girls were divided, some older, some younger. Hauwa didn't understand the criteria. A man with a large scar on his cheek pointed at her. "You, come." She froze. "No," Bintu whispered. The man grabbed Hauwa's arm. "Leave her," Bintu shouted. She lunged forward but was struck hard across the face by another man. She crumpled to the ground. Hauwa screamed, twisting to help her, but the scarred man pulled her away. They dragged her into a separate tent, lit dimly with a lantern, a mat on the floor, a smell she didn't recognize, sweat, smoke, and something sour. 2 other girls sat in the corner. Their faces were blank, empty, hollowed out. Then the man spoke, calmly, like he was discussing market prices. "You belong to us now. Your government cannot help you. Your parents cannot help you. You are wives of the Mujahideen now. Wives, that word. It didn't sound like a title of honor. It sounded like a curse. Hauwa's throat closed. Her hands shook. She thought of her mother's soft singing as she braided her hair on Sunday mornings. She thought of her father's voice when he said goodbye before sending her to school. You must become something greater than this town, Hauwa. Now all of that was slipping from her fingers like water. She backed away slowly, pressing herself into the wall of the tent. The man turned and left, locking the flap behind him. She wasn't touched that night, but she would soon learn that others were. And nothing could ever prepare her for what came next. A heavy armored vehicle rumbled into Chibok, accompanied by 3 others. Men in uniform, bearing the green and white flag, jumped down and rushed into the burnt ruins of the school. But there were no girls to rescue, only ashes, only silence, only pain. Amina was somewhere deep in the Sambisa forest, and her body trembled with fever. They had marched for hours through thorn-covered paths. Some girls' feet bled from cuts. Some had collapsed. The ones who tried to run, shot in the legs or worse. No second warnings. They were herded like animals into a temporary camp, a clearing surrounded by trucks and armed guards. Then the real horror began. One by one, girls were dragged out of the main tent by the men in black. Some returned, eyes swollen with tears. Others never came back. No one spoke of what happened inside. But the silence screamed. Amina stayed close to Hauwa, her best friend, clutching her hand like it was her last thread of humanity. Hauwa whispered prayers over and over again, as though her words could hold back the storm. That night, a new man arrived. He was not like the others. He wore a long robe, had a deep scar down his left cheek, and carried an air of authority. The men bowed slightly when he walked past. He was called Malam Shekau. He gave them a speech. He said they were no longer schoolgirls. They were wives. They belonged to the fighters now. He said Western education had polluted their minds, and it was time to replace it with the truth. His truth. Some of the girls screamed. One fainted. One tried to run. She was shot, not to kill, but to silence. The bullet tore through her thigh. Blood soaked the sand. The men laughed. The days that followed blurred together in pain and fear. They were split into smaller groups and moved deeper into the forest. Every time Amina thought the worst had passed, something new broke her. Forced conversions, forced marriages, endless lectures filled with hatred and twisted ideology. Some girls submitted quickly, hoping it would end the beatings. Others resisted. They paid for it with scars. Hauwa was taken one night, just before dawn. Her screams didn't last long. When she returned, she didn't speak again for days. Her eyes stared blankly. When Amina asked what happened, Hauwa only whispered, "I'm married now." One by one, the girls disappeared into forced unions. Some were taken to neighboring camps. Some were used for propaganda videos. The captors recorded them saying they had willingly converted to Islam, that they were safe and happy. Amina watched Hauwa lie on camera, her voice shaking. Deep inside, Amina burned with rage. But what could she do? Escape was death. Resistance was worse. One day, a soldier named Usman brought her food. He was younger than the others, maybe just 18. He didn't smile, but he didn't hit her either. He asked her name. She lied. He said nothing and walked away. The next day, he left an extra piece of yam on her plate. The third day, not all of us wanted this. Her heart raced. She said nothing back. Not then. But the seed was planted. Over weeks, Usman secretly passed her bits of information. There were patrol schedules, guard changes, even an escape route. A dried-out riverbed that led to an unguarded trail. It was risky, very risky, but it was a chance. Amina told Hauwa. Hauwa refused. "If they catch us, we die," she whispered. "If we stay, we die slowly." They argued for days. Then one night, a storm rolled over the forest. Thunder, wild wind, rain hammering down like bullets. A perfect distraction. Amina took her chance. She ran. Barefoot, soaked, heart thudding like a drum. Branches tore her arms. Thorns ripped her wrapper. She heard shouting behind her, gunfire splitting the air. She didn't stop. She crawled through mud, ran through open patches, stumbled across rocks, bleeding and breathless. But she didn't stop. Then, silence. No gunfire. No shouts. She collapsed beside a tree, gasping. She had made it out of the camp, but not out of danger. She was still deep in Boko Haram territory, and she had no idea where she was. Days passed. She lived off wild fruits, drank from puddles, fought off a snake once with a stick. Fever gripped her by the third day. Her body burned, her lips cracked. She began to see things. Her mother's face, her teacher's voice, Hauwa's smile. Then one morning, a loud noise woke her. A convoy, soldiers, real soldiers, Nigerian army. They nearly shot her. She looked like a ghost. But when she said Chibok, everything changed. They rushed to her, wrapped her in a blanket, and gave her water. She had escaped. She had survived. But Hauwa was still in the forest. Hundreds of girls were still trapped. Some had accepted the fate forced on them. Others had been lost completely, married off, used as human shields, or worse. Amina was taken to a safe house. Doctors treated her. Journalists came with cameras. She refused to speak. Not yet. She waited for news of Hauwa. Weeks later, she got it. Hauwa had tried to run. She didn't make it. Amina broke. The pain of freedom felt heavier than the chains of captivity. She sat in the corner of the safe house for hours, staring at the wall. Then, slowly, she picked up a pen. She began to write everything down. Every face, every scream, every injustice. She didn't want to be on TV. She wanted the world to know, to remember, to stop pretending. Because while she had escaped, the story of the Chibok girls was not over. It still isn't.